living and working together for the common good. That's the meaning of the Japanese word Kyosei and the founding purpose of the East Asia Kyosei Forum, to strengthen the cultural network of East Asian countries and enhance the ideal of Kyosei throughout the region. Ultimately, the Forum aspires to expand the effects of East Asian Kyosei across the globe, moving the world closer to productive and harmonious coexistence.
This program is made possible by the Agency for Cultural Affairs of Japan.
The East Asia Kyosei Forum took place in Sendai, the largest city in Japan's Tohoku region. Sendai is making progress in its recovery from the Great East Japan earthquake. So it had lessons to impart and to learn from the discussions. The objective was finding ways to maintain recollections of natural disasters. In that way, the insights can be shared with other places and across generations. On March 11, 2011, a magnitude 9 quake struck the Tohoku area, setting off a tsunami that reached 6 miles inland. The world reached out to help Tohoku with relief efforts. Over the following months, survivors at evacuation shelters made slow but steady progress toward recovery. Natural disasters are no strangers to East Asia. Each one brings tragedy, but also learning that can help minimize the suffering the next time. These lessons have value for future generations in the same place and for people in other places and at other times. Film director Yoji Yamada delivered the keynote address. Yamada had memories of his own to recount about March 11th and its aftermath. Rikuzen Takata in Iwate Prefecture was essentially wiped off the map. The tsunami destroyed the town's 21-foot-high seawall. More than 80% of its 8,000 houses were swept away. Amidst the barren landscape of what used to be a community of people living in harmony with the sea, yellow handkerchiefs fly in the wind. They symbolize hope and home, just as they did in one of Yamada's most celebrated films, The Yellow Handkerchief. 35 years later, the handkerchiefs have become a symbol of the recovery of Tohoku. The director traveled to the area to visit a displaced resident where his house used to stand. Yamada brought a new collection of yellow handkerchiefs to Kanno. The hope is to see a home on this land once again.
I was quite surprised when I heard about the yellow handkerchiefs in Rikuzen Takata. The town was almost deserted after the disaster, and someone put them up. Just like in my movie, I was shown a snapshot of it. Knowing that the image meant that much to someone in Tohoku really touched my heart. I asked if I could meet the person who did it. That's when I learned it was Mr. Kanno. His home stood in that place before the disaster. After the tsunami, he put up a local good luck charm, Tareobata fishing boat flags. Ordinarily, they're used to signal a good catch, but he felt he needed something more to cheer up his old neighborhood. What he chose was yellow handkerchiefs. I went to visit him as soon as I heard. He told me he was a teenager when he saw my movie. At the time, he was a carpenter's apprentice in Hokkaido. He went to see the film on his day off. He said when it ended, with the main character returning home, he was in tears. He told me the memories of that day at the movie theater came back to him while he was tying the yellow handkerchiefs. I can't describe what this means to me as a filmmaker. It's so rewarding to hear that one of my movies could have this sort of lasting effect. If I had known the film would bring this kind of feeling to even one person, I'd have made it just for him. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you at the East Asia Kyosei Forum. And I'd like to share another story about the movie, The Yellow Handkerchief. That movie was made in the late 70s. It was shown in Japan, of course, and overseas. About 10 years ago, I had an opportunity to meet a great filmmaker from Indonesia. He told me he saw The Yellow Handkerchief in London when he was a film student. In the movie, the main character, played by Ken Takakura, finishes his time in jail. He asks his wife to hang a yellow handkerchief by the house if she would still welcome him home. At the end, he returns to his hometown to find a tower of yellow handkerchiefs and his wife, portrayed by Chieko Baisho. They reunite. The camera follows them with a long shot. They look into each other's eyes. The husband says a few words. The wife starts to cry. He put his arm around her shoulder, and they go inside. The end. Overseas audiences sometimes chuckle at the ending. If this had been an American movie, the couple would kiss passionately, but they don't. They only look at each other. They don't even hug. We often behave in that way, so foreign audiences find it kind of funny. They probably think, that's how Japanese people are. The Indonesian director told me, I know why they don't hug each other. That's very Asian. It is the same in Indonesia. We won't embrace in a situation like that. Westerners might find it anticlimactic, but we can express the significance of a moment without a big, dramatic demonstration. That's where we share as part of the culture in Asia. He told me the last scene of the movie made him cry. I would like to end my speech with that recollection. I'm certain much more will be shared at the forum. I wish great success for this event. Thank you.
Cell phones and pocket-sized cameras put the ability to document March 11th in the hands of almost everyone. A digital museum of the disaster is now in the works, drawing on a plethora of pictures and video. It will be more than just a repository of images. The center will serve to bring back memories and to communicate them to people who were not there. In that way, the lessons learned from adversity will not be forgotten. 7 experts were invited to share their ideas and lead the discussion. Amalia Sastikarini from the University of Indonesia shared her experiences of the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and its aftermath and recovery. David Slater of Sophia University described an oral narrative project he's directing. Tohoku Voices is made up of hundreds of hours of videos of personal testimonials. Masahiko Ichiriki is president of a Tohoku-based newspaper company, Kahoku Shimpo Publishing. He talked about developing a digital archive of the March 11th disaster. Kenji Kai is director of Sendai Mediatek, a public service media organization. He discussed the role of a digital museum dedicated to the disaster. Akihiko Takano is a professor at the National Institute of Informatics. He explained his work on the generic engine for transposable association, a search engine designed to inspire recollections of experiences. The director of the Fukushima Museum, Norio Akasaka, was among the first to propose the need for a permanent place to share March 11th memories. The moderator of the discussion is Shunya Yoshimi, Vice President of the University of Tokyo.
We will engage in a discussion on how to preserve memories of the Great East Japan earthquake. By talking about how that can be achieved, we hope to clarify our understanding of the benefits of maintaining disaster memories.
The anxiety we all feel now is not just the result of March 11th. It comes from knowing that eventually such a thing will happen again. We just don't know where or when. We live in between disasters, and we cannot afford denial. Preserving our memories is essential. They are important assets in order to better prepare ourselves for the disasters of the future. At first, though, the government was unwilling or unable to provide support for the project. In an effort to save some of the cultural properties and resources, I worked in the evacuation zone around the nuclear plant. The radiation was high. I realize we won't be entering that area again for a long while. It frustrates me to know that so many cultural properties will fall into ruin. We need assistance from the government and from community and nonprofit organizations to continue investigating what remains within the evacuation zone and to plan for its recovery. The history and culture of people who lived in the evacuation zone may be lost. The residents have become refugees. How are they going to maintain their cultural and personal identities when their home is gone forever? We've never dealt with this type of calamity.
A year and a half since the disaster, 2,700 people from the 3 prefectures of Tohoku were still unaccounted for. Missing person searches are conducted on the 11th of every month. 320,000 people are still living in temporary housing by necessity. In the coastal areas of Tohoku, service is yet to be restored to nearly 200 miles of railroad lines. Tohoku is still in a state of emergency. But, sad to say, memories of the disaster are already beginning to fade from consciousness. The Kahoku newspaper is participating in a digital archive project of March 11th, organized by the Ministry of Public Management. As the primary newspaper in the affected area, we had photographers and writers who reported the disaster firsthand. All of our materials, including those that were not published, will be incorporated into the archive. In addition, we will preserve in the digital archive pictures and documents collected by citizens. We have a tremendous responsibility to pass along the lessons we learned from this catastrophe. We owe it to the people around the world who assisted us to show that we are on our feet again. No matter how long it takes, we must do this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for inviting me and giving me these valuable opportunities to share my experience, analysis, and idea about the archive and disaster in Aceh, Indonesia. As it's widely known, in Boxing Day, December 26, 2004, a powerful earthquake followed by tsunami hit Aceh, Indonesia. Aceh is located in Sumatra Island, in the western tip of Sumatra Island. And in Aceh case, also the recurrence of earthquake, because in April this year, another powerful earthquake happened in Aceh again. I guess it's about 7 point something. It's amplified the importance of the process of archiving in terms of movie, film, poem, books, digital data, GIS web-based application, or public commemorative spaces. In the left side, this is a mass grave of the tsunami victim. And in the right side, this is the tsunami museum. It's not only the museum, but also as a safe haven when another tsunami or earthquake happened in Banda Aceh. Okay, this is an example of how the local wisdom in terms of architectural system. In the left side, this is a traditional Acehese house. The empty space in the bottom of the house is actually designed to let the water come in when the flood or tsunami happen. But this is likely to be forgotten by the people. So they prefer to build an ordinary house. This is one of the housing project conducted in the aftermath of the tsunami. It tried to imitate the original model of the Aceh traditional house. I would like to cite one nice quotation from Min Harris, the expert of archive from United States. He said that archives do not store memory, but they offer the possibility to create memory. And hopefully that it is a story about love, forgiveness, resilience, and international solidarity. Thank you very much.
I would like to tell you about some of the projects we've started at Sendai Media Tech. It is a public service media faculty with a gallery, a movie theater, and a library. We've launched an initiative called Remembering March 11th, by which citizens using digital media can store memories of the disaster and the process of recovery. As Mr. Ichiriki said, we are in the process of recovery. Designs for a digital museum of March 11th should include documentation on how that development unfolds. Even one photo can bring back cultural identity. We went to Iwate to record interviews in a town that was swept away by the tsunami. The way it looked before March 11th now only exists in photos. We showed these photos to former residents, and memories returned right away. One person told me, the owner of a shop on the street was quite a character. His son and I went to the same class. Around the corner was a barber shop. None of those recollections was in the picture. They came from memories. One photo was able to resurrect the time and place that no longer exists. We know pictures and videos work well, but where and how should we store them? I don't think these pictures are something we should view in solitude on a monitor. Neither are they something we should gather together at a movie theater to watch quietly. Could a community hall be the place? How about a library? But who will provide the services, the resources, the expertise, and the money? My fear is that this will end up being one of those things that no one uses, stuck in the corner of a cultural hall somewhere. A sign would point to an archive and a small monitor. What can we do to create a setting that is accessible and beneficial? Perhaps we could design a space for it at a school, a hospital, or a temple. The post offices might be appropriate because they're everywhere, and the elderly have ready access to them. But we'd have to look further into resources and budget. The communities around the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant pose the biggest archival problem. Even former residents are not allowed in because of radiation.
I want to touch upon centralization of information. When developing a database on a national scale, we tend to apply the old model of concentrating everything in the National Diet Library. But I'm afraid this model doesn't bring information back to the users. This search engine is called 311 Memories. It maintains newspaper articles published since March 11th. The 10 most common words that appeared each day in the articles are displayed by scrolling, much like a chronological table. Right now, it's showing first report of the quake. The display shows you the words that were most frequently used on any given day. Those words will bring back memories, sometimes quite unexpectedly. Usually, search engines wait for you to type in what you want to find before providing information. You only get a response within the confines of the words you've indicated you're interested in. The great thing about this interface is that it turns that around and offers keywords for you. It's supported by a huge archive of newspapers, so you can readily recall events and experiences associated with those words. This is a new way to utilize a massive database such as the newspaper archive that Mr. Ichiriki is working on. It does more than just provide you with the information you're searching for. It's meant to inspire memories. This interface will provide even more extensive results when combined with photos and videos taken by citizens. We will have vastly increased resources to trigger memories. Those resources will be seamlessly integrated into the system. Users will recall memories that were stored away in the recesses of their minds. The interface will inspire memories to surface. That's what the new digital museum has to offer.
We have developed a team of researchers from Sophia University to go up to do volunteer work, but also to collect oral narratives. There's one of a slogan that is very popular in Japan, "Let's go Japan," Gambaro Nippon. Many of our informants, we call them narrators, talked about this. One local activist, a junior college student in Otsuchi, said, "Gambaro, gambaro." Outsiders say that all the time. It's an easy thing for them to say, but it's not an easy thing for us to do. An older man living in a temporary house in Minami Sanriku said, "Gambaro talk? I don't like it. How can I gambaro when I'm living in this flimsy, cold house? Don't tell me to gambaro." A young mother in Fukushima City explained, "People only want to hear the good stuff, how well we are doing. That is the hardest thing, finding happy stories to tell outsiders. But life is not always happy." Everyday heroism. It's a quiet heroism. There's many examples of heroism in Tohoku, although we don't use the term, and they don't use the term hero very much. But who are the heroes? One young father in Ishinomaki said, "The hero is the high school student leading an elementary school class to higher ground on March 11th, 2011. An NPO worker in Otsuchi said, "Visiting each of the old and lonely residents of the temporary housing project. That is what is important now." In Sendai, a local explained, "The hardest thing is to work together to make a relocation plan, to find a new home, to not give up now." One 65-year-old woman reminded us to also include history and to include culture. And I think this is something that has been said before me. She said, "Our problems in this area did not start on March 11th, 2011. Everyone knew there were problems before that, but we could not say it in public. But now we can talk about it. Now we must talk about it. Economic decline, depopulation, a path of industrialization that did not always include Tohoku sufficiently, a nuclear power industry that financially supported parts of Tohoku, but also made Tohoku vulnerable in a time of crisis. All of these voices should be included in our archive, I hope."
Developing nuclear power plants in Tohoku was a matter of national policy. The disaster has displaced people from their hometowns, and high levels of radiation have condemned their communities. Thorough research must be conducted in the evacuation zone in order to preserve the culture and history of the area. 2,700 people remain missing. When I walked through devastated sections of Tohoku, I saw a number of small memorials for them. Those memorials provide sanctuary for their souls. This tells us something about the Asian mindset. We share the notion that we live with the people who went before us. Their spirits are with us still in this world. I hear many ghost stories from the affected areas. It is a sign that the survivors are engaged in dialogues with the deceased. It may be a way of consoling each other on both sides. People in Asia have been forced to overcome disasters and will be called upon to do so again. All of us have created ways to deal with the sense of loss. Amalgamated, these have become part of our culture in Asia. People in this part of the world should appreciate, enhance, and preserve the culture we share involving natural disasters.
As was said earlier, we live in the time between disasters, so this conversation must not end. Please share what you've heard today with your family and friends. To all the panelists, thank you.
This program was made possible by the Agency for Cultural Affairs of Japan.
JIB is an international broadcaster connecting viewers around the globe with a variety of programs and the latest information from Japan. With 24-hour English live streaming on the website, boundaries are gone for good. A library of shows is available to help deepen your knowledge of Japan anytime you wish. Browse archives of posts and footage by foreign residents to get a real feel of today's Japan. Now Japan is only a click away. Log on to JIBTV.com.